I'm going to start out this video by getting just a couple quick facts out on the table here. The first one is that I love the Mass Effect series. The Mass Effect series, in its entirety, is probably one of my favorite works of science fiction, especially as a playable game out there on the entertainment market as a whole. It really ranks up there with things like Dune and with Star Wars for me. It's just one of those classic pieces of science fiction for me, and will be for the entirety of my life. Second thing, I have a very specific dislike of how Electronic Arts does business. We've documented this previously on episodes of The Rob and Dan Show, on our podcast, and in conversation. We've mentioned it many a time that because of very specific things that the company has done, we do not like them. We do not like how they do business, and we feel it's important we do not support them with our money, with our actual cash because of that. The last thing is, I am still very bitter about the last fourth, I would say, the last quarter of Mass Effect 3, as well as some of the things that EA and BioWare did with the story and with DLC as a whole. It really kind of showed EA's true colors with how they were handling BioWare, especially after some of the issues and problems that came up with Dragon Age 2 at that point in time, and it really made me lose any faith I still had in BioWare as a company. With those things being said, though, these are my thoughts on recent rumors and scuttlebutt, as one might say, of Mass Effect 4. To paraphrase, in the most shortest hand possible, not only do I not care, but I'm trying to convince other people not to care. For good reason. And that reason is because of the intense chain of very poor business decisions and poor treatment of the consumers. It is important that we as individuals speak with our dollars and say, no, this is enough. We're tired of the nonsense. It's too much. We need to see the company making much better decisions about not just how to treat us as consumers, but to treat its employees, to treat its businesses that it's acquired, like BioWare, like previous companies. Example, company that made the Command & Conquer series, Westwood. There are the other examples as well. Unfortunately, EA has never really shown a consistency for supporting the companies that it purchases. They force them to pump out a couple very high-profile titles using the fame and goodwill that they built up. They dry them up from the talent and the goodwill they had, and then they liquidate them. They've done this time and time again. We saw it with the studio that made Dark Age of Camelot. They made Warhammer. Warhammer had its time, but unfortunately they were pushed far too hard. The talent was pushed far too hard. The community lost its goodwill for the project as a whole, stopped supporting it, and as such, the project died. Warhammer Online died because of this kind of thing. So, at this point in time, despite the fact that we've seen some very tantalizing rumors about Mass Effect 4, about how the actual game itself is supposedly nearly completed, and they're going to work on motion capture and cinematic development for promotions for the game during E3 this year. I'm saying we don't cover it. Or maybe not cover it, but not cover it rather, but not spend an over amount of time talking about it. We mention it as a news story. Do our jobs, specifically myself and Rob, do our jobs of reporting the news when it comes to this kind of thing, and then move on. We don't talk about it. We don't delay on it. We don't give it more time than we need to get the information out there in a responsible manner. And then as consumers, not only do we not spend our money on Mass Effect 4 and Dragon Age Inquisition, which I myself will not be buying either of them at all, ever, until EA turns this around, until they start to show respect for their employees, for their consumers, until they start to show that they're going to be a responsible company. I myself I'm going to be speaking with my dollars and saying, no, I'm not going to spend money on you guys anymore. You don't deserve my cash. Now, you're probably going to say, well, Dan, you're just going to pirate it then. No, because as Rob has explained previously on the podcast, that doesn't do anything then. If you pirate it, that's still giving the company the attention they want. It's still spreading the word of the game. It's still getting people talking about it. It's still keeping the fandom alive and kicking. And unfortunately, as well-beloved as much of this is, if the company isn't willing to support the fandom in a responsible way, isn't willing to give us content at a reasonable price, DLC at a reasonable price, isn't willing to treat us with respect when it comes to DRM issues, which EA repeatedly has not, both with Mass Effect, with, I don't think Dragon Age 2 had too many issues with DRM, with things like SimCity, the new SimCity that came out, which they just recently started remedying. Until things like that are solved in major ways, and the company shows that they're turning things around and really starting to respect the consumer and their employees as well, with giving them good pay, with giving them the time needed to finish these projects reasonably, I'm not going to just speak with my dollars, I'm going to speak with my time, with my energy, with what I'm focusing on, with what I'm talking about. I'm going to try to focus more on the indie projects, on the projects that do treat their consumers correctly, that do treat their employees correctly, that give others that want to be involved with their projects what they need to survive, what they need to really enjoy their products reasonably without being abused. Even if it seems minute, even if it seems, oh, it's a couple extra bucks for a DLC they already had available, so what? It's a slippery slope situation. If someone feels, especially if it's a company, feels that they can safely and reasonably abuse someone and make a profit off it, you can bet, especially in a very highly competitive capitalistic system, that they're going to keep doing it. Any edge up that you can get, you have to take in how our society is structured. So you can darn well bet EA is going to keep taking advantage of us unless we start speaking with our dollars. So with that being said, as energetic as I want to be with the rumors about Mass Effect 4, about a new character coming forward, about motion capture being started and possibly being completed with cinematic footage prepared for E3, I'm not. I'm not going to be. And I'd implore all of you listening and watching, not just those people that are regulars to our YouTube page or to our podcast, but new individuals as well, don't give them your money. Do not, under any circumstances, give them your money. Don't give them your time. Don't pirate their games. Don't even think about them as best you can. Stop putting the Mass Effect images on your Tumblr, even if it's for just a few months. That downturn in popularity and activity is something the companies notice, and it's going to speak to them that they're doing something wrong. Even if we have to treat EA like a 3-year-old, which, for better or worse, seems like what they act like at times, it's still going to drive them in a certain direction. They're still human beings. They may be greedy human beings at times, but they are human beings, and if they feel like something isn't working, they're not going to do it. I appreciate you all listening and taking in this bit of information. Make sure you follow us here on youtube.com/The Rob and Dan Show, on our Twitch page where we stream daily at twitch.tv/The Rob and Dan Show, and our podcast, which you can find at robanddan.tv.